with Kramer, the movie? Well, this is Robertson versus Robertson. But no divorce is involved here. However, both players keen to avoid a defeat, which might hasten their separation from the Championship League. It's the first time ever we've had two players with the same surname playing each other in this tournament. In a mixed bag for both of them so far. Both one win and one defeat from their first two matches. And Jimmy Robertson going on the attack straight off. So as I said, both played 2, 1-1. Can't really afford to lose 2 of your first 3 matches. Really put yourself under pressure then. But that's the fate that's going to befall whoever loses this one. Last time they met was in the English Open last season, and Jimmy led by 2 frames to 1. But then Neil really got his act together. Breaks of 132 and 70 accounted for both of the next 2 frames in a single visit each. And then he comfortably won frame 6 as well to go through. In fact, he's beaten him the last 4 times they've played. The first ever meeting was in a European PTC event back in 2010 in the Czech Republic. And Neil was the world champion at the time. But Jimmy actually beat him 4-2.
That's it.
Made a couple of centuries as well. But since that first meeting, it's always been Neil who's come out on top. And the standard, of course, is to refer to players by surname. On this occasion, I'm sure you'll understand, it's going to have to be first names.
$18. $19.
If you were watching the previous match on this table between Jimmy Robertson and Jack Lazowski, you'll know that on the other table, Robert Milkins and Mark King had gone to a decider. I was keeping you up to date on that one. Well, King won that deciding frame. And as a result, he's now got 2 wins out of 2. Over on the other table now is Ricky Walden against Anthony Hamilton. And again, I'll keep you up to date on that one.
I'll try Try the extended rest. Actually,
The extended spider.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the rest.
So he was going to go for the extended rest to play this. Brendan Moore has suggested the extended spider. Nothing wrong with that at all in terms of the referee assisting the player and choosing the right equipment. But it really is hard from this distance to control what's happening at the other end of the cue. So that's a pretty good effort. And is it going to pull up and keep him on a colour? Well, he's certainly got a shot at the blue. He might just be able to cut in the green to the yellow pocket.
41.
There's only so much effort you can put into the positional side of a shot like that. So in the end, Jimmy back to the table fairly quickly and with a chance.
One. Eight. Nine.
And quite quickly, it's a chance he's developed into a really good one.
Seven.
Do need to bear in mind he will need all the reds, and obviously that includes the one on the cushion just off the balk line. One thing you would say about that, depending on what colours he takes with the other reds, if he does get that far, that red may be frame ball, so he might not need to concern himself with getting on a colour off it.
$39.
Well, took the opportunity to try to move that one. Didn't make any contact with it, but at least he can keep the break going. He's on the green to middle. He had the insurance of the blue. Well, insurance up to a point. You just sense he's starting to flow a bit now. Really struggled against Robert Milkins earlier, was beaten 3-0. Then played well, without playing outstandingly well, to beat Jack Lazowski.
44.
And that match only finished about 5 minutes before this one started. So he's in his rhythm. He did go back to practice just a few days after Christmas to get ready for this. Maybe that's starting to pay off.
51.
But they are always a test, and even more so when you know it's a key shot. So there's a chance for Neil.
Next. 1.
He's also gone to move it. Well, unlike Jimmy, Neil did make contact with the red, but it hasn't done him much good.
Yeah, Robertson, 8.
Just on his previous shot there, Robertson, Jimmy Robertson that is, knocked the brown into an awkward spot, which is to his advantage, because he doesn't necessarily need it, whereas Neil definitely does. Well, he went for the double, but he played it in a way that he was unlikely to leave it, but not guaranteed not to leave it. There was a pot on there for Jimmy, but he decided it wasn't worth the risk. Was a tough red, but didn't really get close to it.
miss. Yeah. Neil Robertson 4.
Well, this is such a tough one to get out of.
Yep.
Might need a few goes at this.
Oh, I miss.
And in a close frame, the penalty points can make a big difference. Well, in the end, only took him 3 goes to hit it. But is Neil going to have a go at this last red? Gone for it, and he's got it. Now, where's he going to finish?
One.
Neil Robertson.
Oh, bit of a sense of deja vu here. He was in this corner just a few moments ago.
Oh, miss. Neil Robertson 4.
Well, that's 12 points he's given away in penalties in the last few shots. And suddenly now,
Just how do we cue it
More
over it?
behind it, more behind it.
Cue it over it that way.
Neil is leading the frame.
Yeah, you can't go to the side, yeah.
So more behind the blue this way. No, must
I
have
think
been.
it's close to the blue as that was it.
Must have been
Yeah,
further this way.
yeah. I can hit the middle of the ball, can't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't hit that cushion, so it must have been further over that way.
Still further than, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah, something like that, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Don't have the benefit of the screen with the still pictures here at the Championship League, but everyone seems fairly happy with that.
Wow. Neil Robertson 4.
But now they've got to put it back again. And all these penalty points could really end up making a big difference to the outcome of this frame. Needed the balls to run kindly for him there, and they did. Wasn't quite a touching ball, but it was so near to the yellow that it may as well have been. And that was why Neil was able to place the cue ball more or less where he wanted.
Oh, I miss. Neil Robertson 4.
That's 20 points now in the last few minutes that Jimmy has given away in penalties. In most frames it wouldn't make a great deal of difference, but in one like this where it's so close and they're down to the colours, could be decisive.
Foul on this.
And that's something that Jimmy Robertson has been doing across all three of his matches today. Attempting to make thin contact from distance and making no contact at all.
I'm not putting the 4 on you.
Yeah,
I just
so I'll
can't
have to
do it from
go.
here again. Yeah.
Back.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. A referee keeping his finger on the spot so that he knows exactly where to put it.
I know he didn't mean it. I know he didn't mean it. I just didn't win.
Further off.
Yeah,
Yes, it's just in front of the brown, wasn't it?
And that's knocked the brown into a slightly more advantageous position. Both players need it. Difference being that for Neil, if he was to pot yellow and green, brown would then be frame ball. Well, the combination of everything there means Neil has a chance to win the frame here. Not entirely straightforward, but just needs 3 ball colours, and they're all there for the taking one way or another. Just as well he doesn't need the blue, because look where that is, tied up next to the black.
Two. Five. Nine.
So Jimmy now needs 1 snooker, but we're going to see him back at the table, because there's no way of potting the blue, obviously, so he'll come back in pursuit of that 1 snooker.
Yeah, Robertson, nine. Five.
Well, now it's going to be very hard to get Only pink and black left. Look where the black is. It's not a bad spot for getting a snooker behind, but it's still going to take a very precise shot to do it. And he may just have played it. What a fantastic effort that is. So little margin for error. And having pushed the pink over the baulk pocket, Jimmy has really put Neil under pressure here. If he doesn't hit the pink and he leaves it on, which would be very easy to do, then Jimmy would probably take pink and black and win it. What a strange frame this has been. It looked like it was going to be all over very quickly, but it's developed into a bit of a slog. Neil has controlled it tactically towards the end, but a fantastic shot
6.
to lay that snooker on the pink has let Jimmy back in, and somehow, finally, he emerges as the winner. A very closely fought, interesting frame, but it's Jimmy Robertson who wins it. He leads the battle of the Robertsons against Neil by 1 frame to 0.
Jimmy Robertson's back.
Jimmy Robertson leads 1-0 as he gets us underway again. He'll still have one more match to play later tonight against Anthony Hamilton, around about 7 o'clock, 7:30. But for Neil Robertson, this is it for today. I was talking to him earlier. I know he's very keen to get a lot of matches under his belt over the next couple of weeks ahead of the Masters, where he's a former champion, of course. Not going to happen if he goes out early on. And if he finishes the day with only 1 win out of 3, every chance that could happen. But he's only 1-0 down, and he's off to a flying start here in frame 2.
Eight. Nine. Sixteen.
It's already been a bit of a landmark day for Neil Robertson. Made a 1-3-9 in his defeat to Anthony Hamilton earlier, which made him only the 4th player in snooker history to reach 600 career centuries. Ronnie O'Sullivan, Stephen Hendry and John Higgins, probably the 3 greatest players of all time. They're the other 3.
25.
And of course that break is an early front runner for the £500 bonus, which is on offer in each group.
32.
just got to love watching Neil Robertson when he's in this sort of mode. In among the balls. You can almost see his brain working overtime, working out everything. His break building has become
46.
much more complex over the last sort of 7 or 8 years.
Robertson. 46.
Just as I say that, he breaks down with a slightly wild shot. Trying to get into the pack. Certainly got a lot of things moving, but not where he wanted them to be. And yet, he's going to be straight back in to build on that lead. Well, taking the black to the middle would bring him back down towards the reds, but none of them out in the open, so he's going to have to find a way of developing them. In the end, decided it was far more likely to happen off the brown, and it looks to me like he's played that perfectly.
5.
So this shaping up to be a very different frame to the one that went before it. Well, you know how clinical Neil Robertson tends to be in situations like this. You would expect this frame to be over in a couple of minutes.
12. 30. 19. 20.
And with that, Neil Robertson very quickly arrives at frame ball. He wasn't actually aware earlier today when he made that century to reach 600 in his career that he had done it. I did speak to him after the match and informed him of the stat, and he seemed quite chuffed with himself. I'm sure you all remember how much it meant to him 5 seasons ago when he achieved the landmark of being the first player ever to make 100 centuries in a single season. And to be honest, with the passing of time, that just seems even more incredible that he managed to do that. Almost a quarter of them were in this tournament.
$39. Taps. 40.
Not enough left here for him to make career century number 601. A lot of talk about Ronnie O'Sullivan more than likely reaching 1,000 in his career sometime this year. Well, he might not be the last. Likes of Neil Robertson, Judd Trump as well. Every chance they'll get there one day.
$54. 55.
So that missed red on 46 has proved to be only a temporary interruption, because Neil Robertson got straight back in. And now looks odds on to clear the lot.
$71. $76. $82.
Neil Robertson in full flow there, a 46 earlier in the frame, and he powers in that black to complete an 89 clearance. He dominates frame 2 and is level with Jimmy Robertson.
Third frame. Neil Robertson.
So all to play for, 1-all. Now effectively a best of 3. Having got into full flow with that clearance in the previous frame, Neil Robertson is handed a chance to get right back into it here. Really couldn't ask for the Reds to be placed much better than this.
One.
Neil Robertson's partner Mila is from Norway, so they always spend Christmas there. They did so again last week. So he only got back to England, where he lives, just a few days ago.
Six.
And here he is, getting his 2019 snooker year off to a very early start. New Year's Day. It's not the first time there's been professional snooker played on the first day of the year. You might remember the old Mercantile Credit Classic, which was played in January back in the 80s and into the early 90s. Certainly in 1988, the TV stage started on New Year's Day. And the following year, there was a pre-televised phase before the cameras started rolling, and that started on New Year's Day. And there was at least one other occasion when qualifying rounds of ranking events were being played on the first day of the year. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time there's actually been professional snooker played with cameras rolling on New Year's Day for 31 years. This is the nature of the circuit now. It's a battle just to fit everything in. There's so much tournament action going on, which obviously is a great thing.
25. 26.
It's by no means the first time either that we've seen two players with the same surname playing each other in professional competition. You think of the Davis brothers, Joe and Fred, both many times world champions in the game's early days. They obviously played each other, and Fred Davis, when he was well into his 70s, played Steve Davis, who isn't related, in the World Masters back in 1991, not far from here actually, in Birmingham. We also had father and son, Neil Folds, one of our commentators here in the Championship League. Played his dad, Jeff, in professional competition. We had Dennis Taylor playing David Taylor. Kyron Wilson has played Gary Wilson. I mentioned the Mercantile a moment ago. I remember a televised match in that between the Morgans, Brian and Darren, again not related, back in 1990.
42.
And Mark Williams, the current world champion, played Robbie Williams in the Riga Masters last season. And of course, as I said, these two have played each other 5 times before.
$49. 50.
This is the way Neil Robertson was starting to play earlier today, but he got stopped in his tracks a bit by Anthony Hamilton, who made it much more of a struggle and ended up beating him.
58.
Robertson certainly not afraid to get involved in the slog, the tactical heat of battle. But this is what he absolutely loves doing. And really, when Jimmy Robertson handed him this chance at the start of the frame,
65.
you wouldn't quite say it was inevitable that this was going to happen. But you certainly would have sensed it was highly likely.
$66.
And with that, he leaves Jimmy needing 2 snookers.
73.
But really now, he's not thinking about that. All he's got his mind on is adding yet another century to his account.
$81. 82.
Can still make a 140 here, which would beat his own
90.
front-running target for the highest break prize in the group.
$97. 98.
Well, he can't do that now. Can still match it though.
$104.
Well, it doesn't make the total clearance, but he's got another century to add to the 600 that he already had in his career. And of more immediate concern, Neil Robertson, having trailed 1-0, now leads Jimmy Robertson by 2 frames to 1. Eventual group winner goes through to the winners group in March. The runner-up, the beaten semi-finalists, and the player who finishes 5th come back in to start again in the next group with 3 new players. And if you finish in the bottom 2, then your Championship League race is run for another year. So Jimmy hasn't scored a point now since he won the opening frame. .237 points without reply at this stage. He was in a hurry to play that one. He was queuing up to it before the Reds had even come to rest. Well, it was a shot not entirely dissimilar to that, which handed Neil the chance from which he made that century in the previous frame. But he wasn't quite able to cut that red in. It was hard to tell from where we were. Must have been very close to being able to pot it, and if he had, the way he's playing, probably would have been off and running again.
Jesus.
2 and 1 go there. I'm sure he'd much rather have only potted one and landed on something. Not only is he not on a colour, he's snookered on all of them.
Try the brown.
Brown ball. Foul. Miss. Robertson 2. Robertson 4.
Was very close to hitting the brown, but probably wouldn't have made a great deal of difference in terms of what he's left.
I don't think the green was on spot.
Was it off?
I thought Robertson might have a go at that red, given some of the shots he has been taking on. Clearly feels he can force a better chance.
I think it was a little bit closer.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could hit. I don't know if I could hit it back. I don't really think so. I don't. It just seemed everything went over here.
As I was saying, we don't have the still pictures here. Now we do at some other tournaments.
That's
So
about right.
players and referee have got to work it out between them.
Yeah.
Again, they all seem happy enough with that. And the black, much easier to hit than the brown, obviously. But much harder, if he did hit it, to get safe from it. Looks like he made a calculated decision to leave Robertson a shot at that red. And what an excellent pot this was, and to screw back as well, which he had to do to get on a colour. This is a tester, though.
Five. Robertson, five.
Well, he's had some good running and some bad running across his matches today. It would have been extraordinarily good fortune if he'd fluked this red into the yellow pocket, which he almost did.
One.
Well, he's not really finished ideally on anything. There are a few colours he's at least got a chance at. The yellow looks the obvious choice, really. Now, if he could just get the black back in its spot, this would be a really good chance to get this match finished. There's always one player in every group who doesn't have to play in the evening session of the first day. Well, in this group it's Neil Robertson. And if he could finish out this match here, he'd be happy enough with his day's work. 2 wins out of 3 and only lost in a decider in the other match, which could make a difference. But how's he missed that?
Neil Robertson, four.
Just wonder if he lost a little bit of focus, concentration for a moment. Maybe they both have.
One.
Well, this shot looks to hold the key to the whole frame, really. If he pots this blue, lands on a red, should be able to get the black back in its spot soon enough and turn this into a gilt-edged chance to close it out.
Six.
That's the way he'll be thinking now.
Seven.
He'll have thoughts only of the finish line. He can go away, enjoy his evening, maybe watch the darts final or the Premier League football. Maybe watch some of the matches coming up later this evening in this group. But either way, a relaxing evening, back at 11 in the morning to face Ricky Walden with 2 wins out of 3 under his belt, if he can convert this chance.
30. Twenty. 21.
Always feels like he's a recent world champion, but it's 9 years this year since he became the first Australian to win the World Championship. Not been back to the final of it since. He's remained a top player throughout that time, really. Did have a bit of a dip, sort of 18 months ago. Turned it round by winning the Scottish Open just before Christmas 2017.
35.
The only non-British player ever to have won all of the game's big three titles, the World, the UK and the Masters.
36.
He's acknowledged he lost his focus for a year or two. But the fact that he's here, choosing to join the Championship League on New Year's Day, shows you just how focused he is on the game now. He'll be 37 next month, so he's bound to be wondering how many more years he's got at the highest level, and if it isn't going to be that many, he'll really want to make the most of them. He'd dearly love to become a multiple world champion. Only 6 players have won more than once at the Crucible. And that red
48.
leaves Jimmy Robertson at the snooker's required stage. So it looks as though it's going to be just 1 win out of 3 for Jimmy. Neil will go back to his hotel room with 2 wins from 3.
$51. Robertson, 51.
So I think that red would have completely finished it off. It's certainly worth Jimmy's while having a go.
1.
And the red and the pink are nicely placed for perhaps laying a snooker.
Robertson, 8.
So not over yet. It's a bit surprising that he failed to hit that. It looked like the hardest snooker. Can't call a miss, of course, because we're at the snooker's required stage, but now it's just 1 more needed. And that will be the end of that. He lost a close opener on the black, but boy did Neil Robertson turn it on after that. 46, 89, 104, 51. The breaks just flowed, and Neil Robertson finishes his first day's play with 2 wins out of 3. He's beaten Jimmy Robertson by 3 frames to 1. So Ricky Walden and Anthony Hamilton continue on the other table. Next up on this table in about 70 minutes' time, it'll be Jack Lazowski against Robert Milkins. David Hendon will be here to talk you through that.